This is devotional number 159, and today's date is October 27th, 2016. We have been looking this week at the privilege of Bible study and also looking at some of the tools that God has given to help us as we study the Bible for ourselves. Today I'd like us to look at the Englishman's Greek and Hebrew concordance, one volume for each language. I really like the Englishman's a lot, much better than Strong's, just my personal opinion. And the nice thing about it is that it's coded to Strong's, and the thing that I like about it is that it lists all the different ways a particular Greek or Hebrew word appears in English at a glance. And what this does is it saves a great amount of time that would be required if one were only using Strong's Concordance, because you have to flip from the main body of the Strong's to the back, then to the main body, then to the back, to the main body. And so this saves a tremendous amount of time. It's all down on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 pages, depending on how long of a word it is, how frequently it's found in the Bible. The nice thing about this is that what it does do is it enables the Bible student to spend more time laboring in the scriptures as opposed to looking up where the information is at. And I'd like to take a look at one example in our time today. It's the Hebrew word for word, which is Strong's number 1697. This might be familiar to some of you. It's the Hebrew word dabar. It's used 1,439 times in the Old Testament, and it's rendered in the following ways in the King James Version. Word, 807 times. Thing, 231 times. Matter, 63 times. Acts, 51 times. Chronicles, 38 times. Saying, 25 times. Commandment, 20 times. And 204 times as other miscellaneous words. So again, this is a word that I like to refer to that is very pregnant with meaning. And it's also worth repeating that all of these various nuances are encapsulated in this one Hebrew word. Now, if we were to open up the Hebrew Englishman's Concordance to 1697, because it's coded to Strong's, as I mentioned, we would find a sampling of these of the way God uses this word. For example, in Genesis 11:1, it's translated as speech, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. In Genesis 15:1, it's translated as things and also as the word. After these things, the word of Jehovah came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. Also in Genesis 18:25, it's rendered as manner. That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? You'll recall Abram's words to God regarding the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. In Genesis 24:9, it's translated again as matter. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and sware to him concerning that matter. 2 Samuel 12:9, we read this, Wherefore, and this is God speaking to David through the prophet, Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Jehovah, to do evil in his sight. Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Also in 1 Chronicles 27:24, it's actually translated as Chronicles. Joab, the son of Zeruiah, began to number, but he finished not, because there fell wrath for it against Israel. Neither was the number put in the account of the Chronicles of King David. Also in 1 Chronicles 29:29, we find this statement where it's translated actually 4 times in this one verse as either acts or book. Now the acts of David the king, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of Samuel the seer, and in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the book of Gad the seer. And lastly, we'll take a look at 2 Chronicles 1:9, where we find this beautiful proclamation, and here 1697 is translated as promise. Now, O Jehovah God, let thy promise unto David my father be established. For thou hast made me king over a people, like the dust of the earth in multitude. Now, I also want to mention that as you do a word study or learn how to do a word study, it becomes very easy to lose sight of the forest for the trees. That is, you can very quickly get bogged down with a tremendous amount of detail. And that's why it's very important to be aware of the context in which a particular word or sentence is found. This becomes very significant, particularly when you find a Hebrew or Greek word that occurs only once in the Bible. It becomes very difficult at times. Also, getting acquainted with the entire Bible is a safeguard against going down a wrong path in our Bible studies. The other vital element, and I've mentioned this before, is that when you arrive at a certain conclusion, you have to make sure that your conclusion does not contradict something else in the Bible about the particular subject that you're studying. And so this takes, again, a lot of work and diligence and prayer, and of course, ultimately, reliance upon God that He would open our spiritual eyes and ears, because unless He does that, we will not be able to understand anything at all. And so we have to have the idea, Lord, teach me. And that's why I keep mentioning Psalm 119, verse 18, because it is so appropriate. Open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. And that word wondrous is related to the word wonderful that we find in the book of Isaiah, where it talks about a wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace. It's related to that word wonderful, and of course that is speaking about the Lord Jesus Christ, and that's whom we want to see, because we know that all the scriptures testify to Him. And you know, there are 3 levels of meaning that Mr. Camping taught in Bible study. One is the historical accuracy. The other is perhaps a moral significance, and most importantly is the spiritual or gospel dimension, which points to the Lord Jesus Christ. And again, I just want to remind you of 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, study or be diligent to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Lord willing, in tomorrow's segment, we want to take a look at the interlinear Bible.